Imperial vs. Stormcloak has been an ongoing debate since the release of The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Now this video isn't intended to say who is going to win, but rather analyze the equipment used by each faction within the Skyrim Civil War. So for starters, I'm going to lay out here, there's going to be three categories that we're going to be analyzing. What kind of armor is being used, what kind of hand-to-hand weapons are being used, and what kind of ranged weapons are going to be used. So, with that, we are going to begin with what kind of armor. The Legion have multiple sets of armor which depend on factors such as weather, location, task, and climate for what each soldier is given to equip. Skyrim Legionaries were given mainly leather armor, studded armor, or steel armor. While in the Elder Scrolls V we see vast majority of soldiers with light armor or the studded Imperial armor, we're met with contrasting opinions coming from that of legends and the lore. Now something I want to ask you guys is that I recently posted the quote-unquote finding of the potential answer to the Battle of Whiterun, to Reddit, and I received a lot of attention with it. And I'm curious to see, because I have a question here, there were a lot of people that came forward and stated that the artwork cannot be used as canon, which to me is relatively confusing. How are these stories being told, whether it's the Dark Brotherhood or the Isle of Madness or the Forgotten Heroes sagas being told canon, but the artwork that is meant to go along with it not canon? Now I understand there are a lot of things that are being showcased and are drawn out here for melee usage in the game, such as things like the Spriggans or the undead characters, right? Those are obviously something that were just meant to be artistic characters, but why bother including characters we're already familiar with in scenarios that potentially, answer certain lore questions? How are those not deemed as canon? I'm just curious to see if anyone else agrees with that the artwork should or should not be canon. I'm just curious on your opinions there. Regardless of which, we see a lot of the artwork in Elder Scrolls Legends that showcase many Imperials wearing that of Imperial steel armor. Now don't get me wrong, we do see areas where we're also seeing them wear their leather and chainmail armor as well. However, it's curious to see that in many of them, including the picture called Tullius's Conscripts, we see many more soldiers wearing steel armor than are shown in the Elder Scrolls V. Now, we know Tullius did have to recruit locally, so the term conscripts does fit with this description, but whether or not this is just an artistic decision or, or it's something that was done intentionally, this can create inconsistencies with the lore. Now, regardless, considering many standard legionaries during the Great War were given steel, as seen in many of these pictures, it's likely that with the added fact that many veterans joined the Volunteer Legion in Skyrim, it's likely that half and half are there. So there's half with the steel armor and half with the chainmail leather armor. Now this has to come from the idea that I'm guessing that those who already participated and served the Legion already had their steel armor still, while those who didn't, who joined, more than likely have were given a standard leather chainmail cuirass. Now the Stormcloaks have the one set of standard armor per soldier with the Stormcloak cuirass, which is mainly also leather and chainmail, and then their boots and gloves are made of fur, while their helmets are likely iron or steel. As for the officers in each party, the Imperials are given a standard steel set of armor, which has different changes in terms of the design of the steel helmets, but it still stays the same for the protection, whereas the Stormcloaks are given a modified set of fur, leather, and chainmail armor, which offers more protection. As for weapons, the Stormcloaks are given a variety of different weapons, ranging from maces, swords, axes, great axes, warhammers, and great swords of iron or steel. It seems more likely that it's whatever the soldier has. There isn't a standard weapon, whereas in the Legionaries' case, each soldier is given a standard Imperial sword. In terms of ranged weaponry, it is actually relatively the same, where the Empire has the standard Imperial bow, whereas the Stormcloaks are using either a hunting or a longbow. Now when comparing the two immediately, the Empire seems to have the upper hand with this equipment. While the Stormcloak's officer's chestplate is better than the Imperial and Steel counterparts, their boots, gauntlets, and helmet are inferior to that of the Steel counterpart, and given that roughly half the Legionaries will have this set of armor, also seems to give an edge to that of the Empire. The standard Stormcloak armor is also inferior to that of the Imperial light armor in all areas, so with the armor here, it seems that the Empire has the advantage overall. Now as for weapons, the Imperial Sword is standard, where the Stormcloaks will vary. In this aspect, for close-range weapons, the Imperial Sword is better than an Iron Sword and equal to that of an Iron Axe or Steel Sword. So in this case though, since the Stormcloaks have a variety of weapons, it seems that in this case they'll have a stronger arsenal of short-ranged weapons, giving them an edge. While this does offer many strategic vulnerabilities, this isn't an analysis of tactics, thus equipment-wise the Stormcloak weaponry in short-range weaponry is a win for them. Lastly, we have the bows. Each side uses an iron and steel arrows, so it's not a matter of what kind of arrows they use. More or less, that it leaves it down to the bows. And in general, the Imperial bow is better than both the longbow and hunting bow, so in this case, the Imperial bow will win this category. So, essentially what we get here is that the Stormcloaks are less protected, they are better equipped with deadlier weapons, but are still outclassed at a distance. While this analysis explains how each side is equipped, it does not count in leadership, tactics, strategy, or individual skill, but what it does say is that the Imperials have an advantage equipment-wise over the Stormcloaks. Now I have to make it clear that tactics and strategy don't count, because if they did, the Stormcloaks would lose the weaponry category here, and this is because not having a standard set of equipment is incredibly vulnerable in this case, and that has to do with the lack of the ability to form formations such as a phalanx or a testudo, or even something as simple as a shield wall, because in all three of those formations you require to have a shield, and if you don't, because you're carrying a warhammer or a greatsword, that kind of limits your ability to form a solid line. So it seems that if we did include this kind of stuff, the Stormcloaks would heavily favor a skirmisher-style mentality, not a pitched battle, whereas the Legionaries would seemingly favor that of a pitched battle because they're able to use their equipment and their tactics to their advantage. So that's why I didn't include it, because then it would have been a complete sweep where the Empire had the advantage there. But in equipment case, it's just equipment case, the Stormcloaks will have the upper hand in the weaponry just because they have a better quality set of weapons, and that in terms of they'll have stronger weapons with the great axes and the great swords, the steel axes, and the steel maces. They'll have a lot stronger weapons. They're better quality weapons there. So with that is all we have today. It was interesting to go into some of these things because I really get to dive in deep and see how the little things matter, and I feel like it's nice for everyone else to know a little bit more about it too, where equipment can change and determine certain actions in battle. If you don't necessarily have the equipment to protect your men, you can't just go willingly charging into battle because you don't necessarily have the equipment to do so. However, the Stormcloaks, having started the rebellion from nothing, seem to be relatively equipped well. Their equipment is somewhat equivalent to that of the Empire's, although the Imperial armor is somewhat better. It's not by much, so you can't discount the Stormcloak armor as being completely inferior. The biggest difference comes from the fact that the Stormcloaks are using fur and fur boots and gauntlets, whereas the Empire uses steel gauntlets and boots. So that is a massive difference and offers quite a bit more protection. But regardless of which, I didn't know if I'd necessarily make this video, but seeing that I did have enough to make one, I hope you all enjoyed. If you liked these kind of equipment analysis, I will keep doing them. It's up to you guys though. But with that, I hope to see you all in the next video. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you all in the Discord chat. And if you have any recommendations for topics below, or topics, put them in the comments below or in the Discord chat, and I'll get to it as soon as I can. Peace. If you enjoyed, please like this video because it really lets me know you're enjoying this content. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. The links are right here for you to click on, and the Discord chat link is right here as well. And overall, I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next video. Peace.